I feel like everybody has those books that they, for whatever reason, are too scared to pick up. Whether it's the length, the content, other people's reviews, something has been holding you back from reading this book. And today, we are going to be discussing the 10 books that I am currently the most scared to read. These are across multiple genres. They all vary in length, but I think most of them are on the longer side, I will say. But the length for most of these isn't what's scaring me. It's definitely, for some of them, a contributing factor. But most of these, for whatever reason or the other, I am just so scared and I've been putting them off and I haven't picked them up. And maybe this will be my encouragement to finally pick them up. Maybe not. Maybe this will be my encouragement to just give up and let it go. For one of them, I don't know. I might say no and never pick it up, but we'll see. We are going to start off with the book on this list that I think I am the most scared to pick up, which I feel like most people also would agree with me for this book, and that's A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I feel like pretty much everyone who hasn't read this book yet is also scared by it, but just from what obviously, everyone says about this book genuinely kind of terrifies me to pick up. And I did try to read it at one point. You can see I tabbed it. This was a couple years ago. And I got 200 pages in. And this book follows basically four friends in New York. And then a lot of tragic shit happens, essentially, to one of our main characters, Jude. Just a lot of really awful, traumatic, tragic things happen to him throughout this book, and then awful things have happened to him in his past that I gather we're going to find out about. And just from what people have said about it, because people either love this book or they hate this book, and it has been described as like torture porn. So I don't know. It's kind of scares me. And I did look up spoilers for this, so I do know what happens, but I think even knowing what happens and actually reading it, it's still going to be kind of a tough read. So this one scares me. I definitely go back and forth where I kind of want to read it, I kind of don't, but I don't know. And this is one where the length is a contributing factor to me not wanting to read it, because it is 800 pages, and 800 pages of just like trauma sounds a lot, and it sounds heavy, and I just don't know if it's something I can handle. But we'll see. Maybe I'll pick it up, maybe I won't. This one I'm still iffy on. The next book is another big book, and it is Manacled by Senlin Yu. I do believe this has been picked up, so it is getting republished as Alchemized, and it's pretty much getting reworked, so it doesn't have any reference to Harry Potter, obviously, because this is Hermione fanfic, for those of you that don't know. But it's Hermione meets Handmaid's Tale, from what I've heard. And this is another one from all the reviews I've heard. I've heard, honestly, nothing but good things about this. Everyone seems to love it. But people also say that it's like really sad and like really devastating and really heartbreaking. And I'm pretty sure it does have like an HEA at the end, but to like get to that HEA, it's probably a lot. And I don't know, this one just seems like a lot as well. And it's also 800. Actually, I don't even know how long it is. I think it's also around 800 pages. It seems like, I do feel like if I were to read it, I would like it, but I don't know. There's something about it that genuinely scares me to read it. And I think this would be my first ever Hermione fanfic, so I'm like, maybe I should read other Hermione fanfics before going into this. Maybe ones that are a bit shorter. I don't know. But I also do feel like if I were to pick this up, I would want to read the original Manacled version, which I do have. I downloaded it from AO3 like a year ago, and I just never picked it up. So I do have that original version available. If I were to read it, I feel like that would be the one I'd want to read before I even would like try to read Alchemized. I'd want to like read this one first and then see like kind of what the differences are. But this is one I feel like this one I am going to get to at some point. I just don't know if it's anytime soon. Maybe with the book coming out I might, but I don't know. Next up is Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart. This is a book that follows a teen, I believe, in Ireland, if I'm remembering correctly. But this is also the author of Shuggie Bain, which I read a year or two ago, and that one was also very good. That followed our main character, Shuggie Bain, even though the book really is more about his mother, Agnes Bain, and her struggles with alcoholism and them living in, poverty and just dealing with a lot of the bad decisions she makes and how that affects Shuggy and, the day to day. And that was a very sad book, but I did really enjoy it. And I will say, a lot of people, when that book was coming out, were comparing it to A Little Life and saying that, like, it was the saddest book they'd read since A Little Life. I don't think that's true because it was a sad book. But from what I've heard about A Little Life, I don't feel like it's anywhere near as sad because I only teared up like a little bit at the end of that book. I wasn't like full on like crying or sobbing, and people are sob at A Little Life. So I don't think that one is nearly as sad. So I'm hoping this one isn't nearly as sad, but I have heard, I think this book is sadder than Shuggy Bane was. And from what I know about this book, this follows a teen also in Ireland. And I believe he starts a relationship with another boy from his school, and troubles start from that, from what I've heard. Other than that, I don't know much, but I do know people do cry during this one. And I love a sad book, don't get me wrong. I love crying while reading. It honestly, if you tell me a book's gonna like break my heart and make me sob, I'll read it even more. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, like I feel like I'm going to love this main character. And when awful things happen to main characters you love, it breaks your heart and like you just want the best for them. And I do feel like that's what stops me from reading it because I'm like, I haven't even read this yet and I already want like the best for this character and the best for him and hope that he has, kind of a happy ending, somewhat happy. Because like the ending of Shuggy Bane wasn't happy necessarily. It wasn't like super devastating, but it definitely wasn't happy. It was somewhat hopeful, bittersweet maybe, but I don't know. We'll see. I will get to this sometime soon. It's been out for a while, so I need to pick it up. Our next book is a romance, and that is A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. This is another one that's been out for a while, and the way people describe this, it's full of so much like angst and heartache, and it's very much a right person, wrong time. These two people are always coming into their lives, and for whatever reason, one of them isn't able to be with each other, but they are meant to be. It's just over and over again, there's something standing in the way of them being together. And I think this spans over like years. And that sounds heartbreaking. That sounds like a lot to deal with. And I just feel like I'm going to be reading this and I'm going to want nothing more than for these two people to be together and to be happy. But we're going to have all of these things just keeping them apart and leading to, heartache and even more angst. And I'm just, ugh, like I do want to read this, but I don't know if I want to deal with all of that. It sounds good. And I know the book, it seems very long, but I'm pretty sure this version includes like a short story in it. So I don't think the book is actually quite this long. Yeah. So the book finishes here, which I mean, it still looks decently long. And then I think the rest of the short story is here. So this is another one I do want to get to. And this, I believe, just got picked up. So I think it is getting traditionally published. So again, perfect time for me to finally pick it up and finally read it. Our next book is a classic, and that is David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. Now, the main reason I want to read this is because I want to read Demon Copperhead, which came out like a year or two ago, I believe. And that is obviously based off of David Copperfield. And I just feel like I want to read the like source material before I go into this new book. Do I have to? No, but I kind of want to. And this one, again, it's a classic. It's a brick. So those are the two main things keeping me from reading this. And I believe this isn't translated. I don't think. Charles Dickens, I have no idea where Charles Dickens is from. But I'm assuming this isn't translated. And I will say, I've always had issues with certain classics based on just the like old-timey English sometimes that is used. And it's just a little bit hard for me to like get into it and like kind of comprehend like what's being said. Like I swear to you, I've tried to read Pride and Prejudice, no lie, like 6 different times. And the writing just never clicks with me. Like I'm never getting it. And I still haven't read it to this day. I would like to at some point, and I will get to it. But it's just something with that, the old time English, I feel like I'm not really grasping what's going on in the book. And I'm, scared that that's going to be the same thing for this book. And it is quite long. So we'll see how well this goes. And honestly, I don't know if this is even one of Charles Dickens' like popular books. I know he has a few different books that people low-key kind of hate. I'm hoping this isn't one of them. But we shall see. But this will probably be one that I immersively read, so I'll listen to the audiobook and like follow along. Because I don't know if I have it in me to read this 800 page classic, which I say that, but I am also reading Anna Karenina. I'm about halfway through, and this is also 800 pages. But like, I'm enjoying this, so I shouldn't be scared of this, considering I am reading this. It's just as long. It's also a classic. It might even be older, I think. But I'm loving this. So I'm going to stop being scared, and I'm going to finally bite the bullet, pick this up, read it. The next book is a fantasy romance, and that is Blood Mercy by Vila Roth. My bad. This one, as far as I know, this follows obviously a vampire, and I think she's human. And the vampires are kind of like, the humans are scared of them, but they have like somewhat of an alliance, but they're still like separate. So it's kind of like, I don't know, forbidden, star-crossed, I don't know, something like that. But her dad, as far as I know, I think is like kind of an awful dictator. And like, I think I don't know, they're maybe trying to like overthrow these vampires or whatever, but they're on opposite sides. And the reason I'm held back from this, because I love a fantasy romance and I love vampires. So you'd think I would have already flown through this, eaten it up. But hey, it is also a long one. I say like, long books don't scare me, but like, they kind of do. And I've also heard that this book is just kind of dense at times, and it's a little slow. And I think it being dense and it being slow and it being long is definitely something that's holding me back from reading it. But I do think it would be a series that I like. And this series is pretty long. Like, last I looked at it, I think it had like 5 or 6 books out, and there were still more coming. I don't know how many they have out now, but it's a long series. This is a long book, so I definitely haven't had any like urgency to pick it up. But I've also heard like really nothing but good things about this, even though people do say it is dense. People that have continued on seem to love this. So I do want to give it a shot, and I'm hoping this will be a new like obsession of mine, because I love, love, love a vampire romance. So I'm excited for this one. Still scared, but excited. Next is a nonfiction, and it is Jesus and John Wayne: How White Evangelicals Corrupted a Faith and Fractured a Nation. This is one that, the reason I'm somewhat scared to go into it is just, I genuinely think this book is going to like piss me off. It's going to annoy me. And while getting like pissed off and annoyed in a fiction is one thing, because it's not real, it's all a fantasy world, so you can kind of put it down, step away, and be whatever. But like, this is based on true things that's going on in the world and is going on right now. And I feel like that's like, it's just going to piss me off. And that's what scares me, because like, I love a social science nonfiction. I love a nonfiction that does kind of piss me off and like open my eyes up to the injustices and some of the dumb things that people do in the world. But this one, for some reason, I don't know, this one, I know it's gonna get me riled up. And I feel like that's what keeps me from like picking it up. Like, I put it off for a bit, but like, I know it's good. And I feel like with the climate of the world right now, this is another one that's pretty prevalent, and it's going to irritate me that much more. But I do want to get to it. I am excited to read it. And unlike the other ones, it's a pretty short one. So I will get to this soon. I'll probably pick up the audiobook at some point this year. But this is definitely another one that something about it, it's keeping me away. The next book has been on my TBR for a while. I don't exactly know the plot of it, but it is The Love Songs of W.E.B.Du Bois. This is one that I have wanted to read. I just know it's kind of about being Black in America, somewhat. It's along those lines. This is fiction, but this is one, again, it is a brick. But again, people who have read it say they love it, say it's amazing. So I do want to get to it. But I think the fact that it is so long, and I'm pretty sure it's either general fiction or literary fiction. 800-page literary fiction is definitely a climb, and definitely a lot. I think it's probably be like the longest literary fiction I've ever read, because most literary fiction is like 200 to 400 pages. So this one is definitely an undertaking, but it's definitely one I want to get to eventually. And I am excited to read it. It's going to be one that I think is going to take me a while to read, because it is so long, and I think it is a bit more on the slower side. but I do want to get to it. I do want to read it. I do think it would be a great read, an important read. So I will get to this. The next book is The Troop by Nick Cutter. Now, this one is purely based on content as to why I'm scared of reading it. And that is because this book, I think it follows a like Cub Scout troop or whatever it's called in this book. And they're like trapped on an island because they went there for one of their retreats. And some gross things start happening because it is a horror. And I know it has a lot of body horror. And I don't know if I can handle body horror. I don't like gross things. And I think that's what all body horror, it's just disgusting, it's gross. I simply don't know if I can stomach this book, but I still want to read it because it seems like everyone loves it. And I do like horror, and I have read some horror that has like gross things in it. So I'm like, maybe I'll like it. Maybe it'll work for me. I did read what is it, Mayfly, like a year ago. I know that's splatterpunk, which is somewhat different than what The Troop is. Granted, splatterpunk still has like gross things in it, and I still enjoyed that book. So I'm like, maybe I can handle it, but I don't know. I did attempt to read this once before. I think I attempted to read this as like my first horror book ever, which was definitely a mistake. And I had only gotten, I don't know, maybe 50 pages in. Like gross things like were kind of starting to happen, but not even like nearly as gross as I knew it was going to get. And I was like, I can't do it. I had to put it down. But I still want to try and read this. I still want to get to it. I genuinely don't know if I can handle how gross it's going to get. I don't know. I don't know if body horror is for me. This would be my first, I think, like full body horror book. So we shall see. You guys let me know if this is good and if you think I can handle it. Because I don't know, even talking about this book and thinking about it, I'm like, well, low key, kind of getting crazy right now. All right, last book of the video. And this kind of encapsulates an entire series, but it is Zodiac Academy Shadow Princess. And this one I hold up specifically because this is the next book I have to read in the series. And also, this is the point in the series where pretty much everyone who I've seen read it starts to cry at the end of basically every single book. So that does scare me because up until this point, the series has been somewhat lighthearted. It's been pretty fun, pretty go with the flow. But like Shadow Princess, every time I see someone like doing a vlog for this, they are sobbing at the end of this. And it seems like they just keep sobbing for the rest of the series, the rest of the series, and the rest of the series. And they talk about how much pain, all of these characters have been through. And this is the same thing I was talking about with the earlier books, is that like you go to care for these characters, like you don't want anything to happen to them. And like I know things are. So it scares me a bit because I'm like, we're at such a good point in the series, somewhat. We're like, they're kind of good, and I don't want awful things to happen. So I'm scared. And it's kind of, the unknown as well. It's like, I don't know, like what could happen in here that has people having these such strong reactions to the end of this book. And that scares me. I love to cry while reading, but I don't want bad things to happen to these characters that I love. So it's hard. But I am going to get to this, and I'm going to get to this actually soon. This is probably the first one I'll get to out of this stack because I just finished over here the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series. I actually literally just finished this like 2 days ago, and I loved it. So I'm even more excited to get into Zodiac Academy and fly through these. I'm hoping, probably won't finish it this year, but to get through a good chunk of it this year. And but that still doesn't stop me from being scared at what is to come next, at where this story is going to go. And I guess I gotta get the tissues ready because apparently I'm going to be an absolute mess at the end of this book. All right, so these are the 10 books that I am currently the most scared to read. I do hope to eventually get to all of these. Maybe not this one. I don't know. I'm still on the fence. But I do hope to get to at least most of these sometime soon. You guys let me know if there's one that I definitely need to prioritize. If there's one that I for sure need to get to and like get over my fear. And honestly, let me know if you think I should attempt this or if I should just let it go and not even try. Because I still don't know. I'm still back and forth. But you guys, you let me know. But other than that, that is the end of the video for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.